Welcome to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. The Pharmacy Leaders Podcast is a member of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, with interviews and advice on building your professional network, brand, and a purposeful second income from students, residents, and innovative professionals.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Pharmacy Leaders Podcast. This is Callie Downs, and I am a P3 student at the University of Houston College of Pharmacy and our APhA ASP Vice President of Patient Care. We are finishing up our last day at the APhA Institute on Alcoholism and Drug Dependencies in Salt Lake City, Utah. Today, my guest is Kaycie Rathburn, who is an attendee of the Institute. Welcome, Kaycie. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Kaycie Rathburn. I am a student at the University of Houston College of Pharmacy, and I am the president of our APhA ASP chapter.
Thanks, Kaycie. We're really excited to have you with us today. So, what did you hope to get out of the Institute before you came?
My hopes before I came to Institute were just to get a better understanding of this issue that's happening in our society. I learned as a P1 that this is a common substance use disorder is common to see in the pharmacy profession, which I didn't know. And I also have personal ties to it with my family. So any opportunity that I see that I can learn more about it, I try to take it. And I've been wanting to go to this since I was a P1. And this year I had the opportunity to do it, so I went ahead and took it.
So I know you mentioned that, you heard about it when you were a P1 and you really wanted to come. So what made you really take the leap and decide to come to APhA Institute?
I think it was because I heard about it in P1 year from the Generation RX chairs, but then during my P2 year, they did their convocation on it, and just all of the information and how passionate the students came back that attended. I think that was what really pushed me to make the decision to actually come and look into it more.
Mm-hmm. So what have you learned so far since you've been here?
I've learned a ton. I don't even know where to start. I think we've learned just a lot about, the actual, science behind it and what happens in the brains, and I've also learned a ton about the emotional side of it and just how many people it can affect. We've learned the emotion from someone that has the family side of it, and then the person that actually has a substance use disorder. And it's been very fascinating to get a better understanding of every aspect of it.
So with all this new information that you've learned here, what do you hope to do with the information when you get back home to Houston and implementing what you've learned here into your communities?
Well, one of my goals when I was running for president-elect of our chapter was to expand our Generation RX program, and I think they did a great job of doing that last year. So my goal is to continue to support them and to help them find events that we can provide more education about this subject to the public and to the students in our school. And I also just hope to bring it into my future practice. I mean, as an intern in a retail setting, I know we encounter it a lot. And so I hope that I can be a better counselor for these people and hopefully teach even pharmacists, just a different way of thinking about it and share what I learned. Because I think, they talk about this morning, our meeting was about the 12th step, which is to go and use the knowledge and to serve others. And that's what I really am hoping to do, is to continue to just spread the knowledge, because not everyone gets to come to Institute and learn in this way. But I think if everyone that does come to Institute can spread the word, then I think we can make a change one step at a time.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. All week at Institute, we've been talking about, a drop in the water and the ripple effect and how we can really make a difference with the things that we've learned here. So with all that being said, where do you think the greatest need in your communities is for this type of information and education?
It's really hard to pinpoint a certain need in the community because I think it's all around. Yesterday, I got a chance to talk to one of the leaders here, Brian, and he talked about how it's everywhere. You're bound to know somebody. And if you start talking to people, then it's just crazy how many ties there are to substance use disorders, whether it's their family or their patients or where it's literally everywhere. So I honestly think that it's going to be like other diseases that when we start talking about it, I mean, it's all over our communities. I do think I see it a lot in the retail setting, especially because I get to work at an independent pharmacy, and I know we see a lot of controlled substances coming in to be filled, and I think I work in a area that does have a lot of it coming in, so I think I can really implement what I'm learning there.
So do you think that you've learned kind of how to get the conversation started with patients?
Yes, I think I have learned how to what they call plant the seed, and how to not show judgment and to show more empathy and caring and to show that I'm coming from a good place. And also, one interesting thing I learned is that to take the science part out of it. You know, when we learn to counsel, we're hit side effects. You know, we hit when to call your doctor. We took exactly how to take it, but we never show the heart, I guess, of it. Mm-hmm. And so I think what I've learned is that if you just go in with empathy, and you know, just like I said, plant the seed, then I think they can see it's from the heart. And there's another way to go about it, like, I have a concern, or like, you know, this is a little bit big of a dose, like, did your doctor talk to you about it, or something like that, rather than, you know, this can cause death, or this is not good for you, or I can't fill this because, you know, this is just uncomfortable on my license, or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. So why do you think it's so important for us to become educated on substance use disorder as student pharmacists?
I think that as just a younger generation in all aspects of life, we are the next generation, and we have the keys to make a lot of changes in this world that need to be changed. And so I think this just kind of goes with it. And as a student pharmacist, we can be on the front lines of substance use disorders because, I mean, they come to us, and we're, you know, they talk about how pharmacy is like the second most trusted profession, and people will talk to us. And so I think it's just important to be educated, to know how to talk to people that might be suffering from this, or to talk to their family, to provide resources, to provide naloxone if they need it to revive themselves or their family members. And I think that we are just a good profession that can, you know, fight against this and to help people. And becoming educated is the only way that we can do that. And as a, you know, student pharmacist, we'll be the next pharmacist out there. And even if there's a lot of stigma surrounding it currently in our profession, I think if we educate the student pharmacists, then that stigma won't be part of our practice in the future.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I know you talked a little bit about stigma. Mm-hmm. Can you expand some more on how we can start breaking down the barriers around substance use disorder and stigma?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to just like having empathy and thinking of the person as a person, not just, you know, another patient, and not just, it's like, here they come again with their controlled substance prescription. You know, I think just first of all, changing our our mindset, and reprogramming how we address the situation could be step one, and treating everyone as a human being that could be suffering rather than just another patient. And then changing our language is another easy way to do it. You know, instead of saying addiction or addict or, you know, abuser, or I know they use the word crackhead, you know, call it substance use disorder, treat it as the disease that it is, and just share your knowledge with people. I think that's the best way that we can break stigma, and don't be afraid to talk about it. I think that's a real important one. It's just like you see a lot of with mental health, you know, break the stigma. I think that's important to hear, to consider this as well.
Yeah, I think it's about time that we, you know, bring substance use disorder into the limelight and stop treating it as something that's shameful. You know, it's a disease just like any other. Mm-hmm. So how do you think this experience will impact you and others in the profession?
I think this experience impacts me because like I said, I could learn about the emotional part of it. I could hear people share their stories. I could share my story. I think this made me really grow as a person and a future pharmacist. And I think that the people that attended feel the same way. And so I think all of this passion will continue to thrive and, like you said, be a drop in the water that creates a ripple throughout the profession. And I think that I will continue to carry with me and maybe even try to come back to continue to learn more and more. And I don't think that this is an experience that I could ever forget throughout my entire pharmacy profession in the future.
So what would you recommend for students who are thinking about maybe attending Institute?
I would say definitely go for it. If you've never had a student at your school attend, ask your ASP chapter of how, you guys can get involved in it, or there's everyone in the ASP, the whole organization, all the way up to, the National Executive Committee, Keith and Lynette, they're all just such great people that it's, even if you don't have anyone involved at your school and you want to attend, just reach out to anybody in ASP and ask them how to get here. I think it's beneficial whether you have a personal tie to substance use disorder or you don't. I think everyone can learn from this. I've talked to people that this institute, really opened their eyes because they didn't even believe that it was a disease at first before coming. And then this week they learned that this is truly something that we should be doing and, advocating for in our profession. So I think that it's beneficial for anyone, even if you have like the slightest bit of interest. I think you should definitely try to attend anytime that you can while you're in pharmacy school, even if or beyond that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kaycie, and for sharing your experience.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you, Tony and Pharmacy Leaders Podcast, for allowing me to do these past few interviews and to bring light to this really important subject that we should definitely keep talking about.
Support for this episode comes from the audiobook Memorizing Pharmacology, a relaxed approach. With over 9,000 sales in the United States, United Kingdom, and Australia, it's the go-to resource to ease the pharmacology challenge. Available on Audible, iTunes, and Amazon.com, in print, ebook, and audiobook. Thank you for listening to the Pharmacy Leaders Podcast with your host, Tony Guerra. Be sure to share the show with the hashtag #PharmacyLeaders.